Hi, I'm Lauren from LSP Actions. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can remove distractions from your image going from this to this using some techniques in the LSP Portrait, Vogue, Finesse, Photoshop Action Suite, such as some frequency separation, spot and blemish, healing brush, clone stamp, patching, lasso, and the LSP Select and Fix It action to go from there to there. There's a lot of layers to this image. There's a lot of things we need to do. Removing this section, over here, this left section and the top, and then going from some different things. So it's not just a one click. You kind of end up like this, adding in separate layers to get that look that you want. And of course, finishing up with little touches such as removing logos, t-shirts and distractions from your image. So we're going to go and cover everything, how to go from this to this in this video. Every method is covered. This is a watch over my shoulder video tutorial. I've not previously edited this image. That's going to be basically my mind working. And along the way, I'm going to show you lots of good techniques that you can use. So let's dive in. Up in my actions panel, I have the Studio Vogue Finesse Portrait Actions. These have everything you need for your portrait editing. For example, here I'm clicking Instant Image Leveler, and how about a little bit of contrast boom as well, just for this image. But for now, we're working on the background. This is what this tutorial is all about. I'm going to show you some methods using the actions and some hand editing. When you have a complicated background like this, it's not just one fix and it's done. We've got so many different things going on here. For example, we have shadows around the lighting stand. Here we're missing complete areas of the baseboard and the flooring. Here we have a wall here coming around at an angle, a 90-degree angle to our subject. So there's an awful lot going on, and there's going to be different ways of fixing this. So we need to kind of look at each section and think, what do we need to fix? So first on the actions, I'm going to play the spot healing layer setup, or you can set up a new fixing layer. Either way, if you're doing this manually by hand, you want a new kind of duplicate layer that has copied your all image into one layer. I'm going to use the LSP Select and Fix to start with, so I'm going to grab the polygonal lasso tool for this because we have some harsh edges here, and I am just as carefully as possible getting as close as I can, because when you're using LSP Select and Fix, it's using Photoshop's content aware technology, and what that's doing, it's going to figure out what's around your object and what it needs to kind of pull in with. This is not going to be perfect at all, but it's going to give us a really good base. If it was just this one thing that needed removing, we'd probably be absolutely fine to do this in just a few steps, but there's a lot of complex stuff going on in this image. So I've done quite a careful draw around. What I'm also going to do, oh, it doesn't want me to zoom in for some reason. I'm going to come back on the lasso and hold down Alt to take away from a selection, and I'm going to remove these bits. I want to leave as much of what we want to keep in the selection here, and I do want to keep these areas of floor, so I'm just going to come in nice and close. I want to give it a little bit of an outline. Also, if you've cropped at this point, you're going to want to flatten, because if you still have any kind of image material outside of your crop zone, then Photoshop is going to think that, it's going to use that as well. It's going to pull in from it, which you don't want. So make sure you've flattened your image first. There's nothing else showing over the back end. I'm going to use the LSP Select and Fix It action. You can get this as a standalone, but it's also featured in Signature Newborn, in the Portrait Vogue and things like that. So there we have a before and after. That's done a really good job so far. I'm going to come on the patch tool, and I'm just going to patch this shadow here into a nice way. The patch kind of, it replaces the tones and the textures, but it also blends in with the area that you're replacing with. And again on the patch tool, I'm just going to use my patch tool here, and I'm holding down Shift to make several selections at once, and I'm going to use Select and Fix. Let me just bring this up a little bit. So that's got rid of those funky kind of shadows quite well. I'm going to patch this area in because I want to line up. Oh, look, I patched it with a funky bit there. I just want to line this up with what's already going on in the image, and I'm going to play Select and Fix there just to join that up. It's not perfect, not yet, but these are the little areas we can work on afterwards. And again with this shadow here, you can see I'm already using several different methods. I'm using select and fix to sort areas out. I'm using the patch tool, which I love to use because you can just drag this around to replace. This is a wood grain floor, which is really quite great actually because it already has this kind of irregular texture. So that really helps when you're patching areas out of the way. Okay, so you can see it still looks a little bit dirty and a little bit grubby there, but we've got rid of that whole kind of lighting sound, so it's not bad so far. Now I'm going to do the second easier area again. I'm just going to patch this out of the way. And now we're onto this, a bit of a nemesis area, right? Now, there's obviously a lot going on here, isn't there? A lot. And we can't really cropping, so I'd normally recommend cropping in close without using the ratio of our, 2:3 ratio here. We can't really crop in. You could do a 10:8 or even a 7:5 and lose a little bit of this, but you're still going to need to fix this area. So we may as well just jump in with a heavy edit. I'm going to come and set up a new fixing layer, or if you're doing this by hand, you can just create a new merged layer here. We've already worked on, let's call this one number 1 left, because we worked on camera left, and let's call this one 2 right. You can just double click to change. If you double click on the layer, you're going to get the layer style box come up. You want to double click here where the text is. And we're going to use a few methods for this. We're also going to have to rebuild some floor and baseboard at this angle, because this is at a different angle here, but it's cool. So I'm going to grab the lasso tool, and let's go around again nice and close, retaining as much of what we want to keep in as possible. Harsh shadows, definitely include those within your selection as well, because you don't want them left behind. Or Photoshop thinking that you want to keep that and, making them any worse. So I'm just taking the time. This is a particularly tricky edit, just to take these areas out. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to think, right, what can we keep in so that Photoshop, switch into patch tool, so that we're giving Photoshop as much information as we can in the actions, as much info as we can of, no, we want to keep this, we want to keep this, please keep that for us, Photoshop, because that just helps when it's trying to figure out what we want to do. Ignore my terrible selection here. Okay, so now I'm going to go and play the select and fix it action. It's not going to be great at all, but it's going to get rid of this stuff at least, so it gives us something to start with. And that's just played out. You see? Awful, terrible. But it has given us a starting point. It's also helped us up around this area. So now I can just manually patch. What I'm probably going to do is get rid of the fact that there was a side here at all and just have the background flat. So I'm just starting to patch this in. Patching is great at blending, but use your eyes, look at the whole scene, do it in little sections, think about what you need to do. Now this is going to be the trouble area here for us, but it's cool for now because I'm just thinking of the long game, thinking of the patching. So see there we have a before and after. There's some dirtiness here where there was originally reflectant, which are fine. You take away the element and it just looks kind of dirty. So I'm just going to take away these little areas here. We're going to lighten up with a bit of frequency separation, I think, in a little while. But let's see what we can do first to get this as fixed as possible. I'm ignoring this bit for now because I know that that is going to take some work. And that's cool. And the same here. Let's just extend that a little bit. Ooh, just want to get that lined up as best as we can. I'm on my mouse today, not on the Wacom, which is fine. So we really want to start extending this skirting board. We don't want to just keep repeating the same pattern though, but for now, let's just get a little bit of something in here. Give ourselves as much room to work as possible. Just hit M on the key for a marquee because I'm making a square marquee and then J back to patch. So you can use any selection tool for patch. It's absolutely fine as long as you switch back to the patch before. I've just hit S on the keyboard for clone stamp. Just cloning a bit of that background in. So now here's what I think we're going to do for this area. I think we're going to take this area and flip it, but I can tell you now the angle is not going to line up. I'm not too worried about the lighting because the lighting is nice and even in our image here, so I'm not too worried about the light. But you know, even if the light was very dark, say here, and very light over here, that's still something that can balance out. I'm more worried about the angle, and I'll show you why. I'm just going to copy and paste this onto a new layer. So left, flipped to right, just pop that over. Control Command T, right click, and I'm going to choose flip it horizontal. But look what happens when we try and match it up here. It's not quite matching with the angle of these boards. It's not bad, but it's not quite matching. So the first thing we're going to have to do is get this matching. So I'm going to right click and hit skew, and I'm just going to bring up that angle a little bit. And now we also want to bring up the angle of these boards. Take the opacity of this layer down a little bit, and you'll see a little bit of what's underneath it. So we can line, you see the original board lines coming here. I want to line this up with them. Or get it good enough. Okay, let's try that for now. Not bad. You see our toning isn't great, but it's okay. I'm going to add a layer mask to this one by clicking the little white box, the little rectangle with a circle in. Let's just start blending this in just a little bit. There's a lot of tricky work for this, which is why if you send this kind of stuff off to a retoucher, they'll often say, oh, that's a bit more of an expensive job. Blending this edge, even though the toning isn't ideal right now. We're blending and blending and blending, a little bit like putting makeup on. It's all about the blending. If this floor was seamless, it'd be easy because you can just paint that on, but it's not. So that's why I wanted to show you this as an edit, because we're using a lot more complex techniques. I could show you something super easy, but then if you were ever presented with anything like this, what would you do? So we've replaced that area with a bit of floor here. I'm going to make another copy of everything. Just place that up a new fixing layer. That just does it for me. And now we can start focusing on what we want to achieve in this section here. First thing I'm going to try is the patch tool. I'm going to bring this over to this section here. Let's just see if we can get everything lined up a little bit better. Dragging and making sure that all the lines line up, because if I did this and I dragged it over here, for example, we get that going on. You want to make sure you're dragging to an area that lines up. Got a bit of a shadow going on here. So drop that, it will still keep some shadow in, but we can use that as a base. Everything here is a base. I'm going to finish up the toning with some frequency separation. Here obviously we've got some shadows left over, so I'm going to replace this with another area of our boards. Again, it's keeping in some shadow toning, but that's okay because I can fix the toning. It's a very, very tricky edit to do. So there's a lot of kind of thought with an edit like this. You have to kind of think as you go along and think, oh, you know, what next? What do I need to fix next? And after a little while, you kind of get what you need to do in order. I'll just hit M for the marquee tool, and I'm just going to select this area, Control Command T, and I'm just going to drag this out a little bit bigger. Just to get rid, you see I've just got rid of that corner area there. Just dragged it out, but you can see by doing so, I've distorted the boards. So let's undo that, and instead, let's clone. See, I've gone in, this is a watch over my shoulder edit. This isn't something, this is an image I've gone, oh, I'm going to edit this first and then show you the steps I took. This is kind of me figuring this out. So I'm just going to clone that. Cloning's fine as long as your angle lines up and your depth of field. So you don't want to clone on somewhere, you know, from somewhere sharp to somewhere soft and vice versa. You need to kind of make sure it adds up. Next thing I'm going to do some frequency separation. If you're unsure what frequency separation is, you go on the LSP Actions website under blogs, and there's a whole blog I've got on there explaining what it does. But basically, I've just played the frequency separation action. You can set up your own frequency separation. It separates your image into just the textures of your image and just the tones by blurring. I also sandwich a blank layer in between for painting. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the blank layer, sample a nice tone from the background, and I'm just going to bring this in, and you can see that's helping us clean up those kind of pesky shadow areas that looked a little bit dirty. This is very, very harsh what I'm doing right now because I'm just painting purely over the tones here. I'm also going to paint on this kind of whiter tone here, and then the wool tone. I'm going to bring the opacity down, and then I'm going to repeat this step. I'm just going to bring that up till I'm okay with it. I'm just going to take that off his shoe. And I'm going to create a new merge layer, remove that version of frequency separation, and play it again. Now I'm going to come in on the blank layer here and just really start to tailor these areas. Just painting away any kind of dirty looking areas. We don't want our clients to look like they came in with dirty shoes on. So just, it's all about this cleanup. Sometimes I find zooming out quite a bit can help you see where the patchy areas are as well. That can be a useful trick because sometimes when you're a little bit close, you just don't see it. Same over this area. Okay, so here's where we started. A little bit of contrast and levels in there, and here's where we finished. Was it an easy edit? Absolutely not, but is it worth it? Of course it is. So before we fixed the left side, got rid of the right side even though we had all this going on, but that's much easier to work with than what we had. Flipped a little bit of the left side over and used the transform and skew to get it lined up. Then cloned and patched and healed those areas in using some select and fix. And then we used some frequency separation layers just to paint over and match those tones. I'm also going to use select and fix super quick. I just realised we still have a watch. Shock horror. So I'm going to set up a new fixing layer super quickly, grab that patch tool, and I'm just going to come around this watch and play select and fix. I keep seeing things, I keep spotting things I want to use select and fix for. There we go. Right, no more now. I promise you, I promise you. Even if you can see something right now, I promise you I'm going to stop after I've done this. It's very tempting when you're editing an image to know kind of how far you need to go with that edit, little bits and bobs, but having that attention to detail can really make or break the final image because you want to remove those distractions from the scene. I hope that helps your editing as well. You might have picked up on a new technique or just need a little bit of reassurance on what does what. I'm Lauren, thanks for watching.